Oh, so that's a good question. Well, so I started my owning a CrossFit gym about 6 years ago, right? But prior to that, I actually still had other businesses. So I remember in high school, I had my own landscaping company. That's kind of how I put myself through high school and part of college. And then I started out as a personal trainer about 11 years ago. So I went to school for exercise and sports science, got my MBA as well. And I remember my first job as a personal trainer was at this big box gym, and they had a couple locations. I was a personal trainer there. I hated it, to be honest. I didn't like doing it. The reason why is I don't like working for people. I like to be my own boss. I like to say I'm kind of unemployable, and so I worked at there for a couple months, and basically what happened was I was selling personal training packages like crazy. I was doing very well. And I was charging more than all the other trainers, okay? Just because I've learned, the marketing side of things, the sales side of things. And one day the manager came to me and said, geez, Robbie, we're gonna have to ask you to lower your rates because all the other trainers are charging less than you, and they don't like the fact that you're making more money than them. That's when I knew that I was in the wrong place, right? So I started an in-home personal training business. So basically what that meant was I would go to people's houses and I would train them and I'd teach them at their house, right? Personal training. And that was probably the best thing I ever did because the type of clientele that I had were very, very wealthy. I mean, these were people that worth millions of dollars, some hundreds of millions of dollars, which was a whole nother world for me. It got to the point where I was learning more from them than they were learning from me. So, just the way they lived, the way they thought about money, the way they thought about success, how they conducted themselves. And I'm a big believer you are who you associate with. And I was spending hours and hours and hours with every day, every week with these successful people. And I think that made a huge difference to, get me to where I am now, And so that was a big thing. And I realized that in-home personal training was not necessarily what I wanted to do long-term because I just got tired of driving around, right? So I decided to open up a boot camp because boot camps were starting to get big at the time, right? And so I knew that, we're in New England here and it snows in the winter, and I realized that I needed to make a change and not do an outdoor boot camp. So I looked around for something indoors. I found up the street where I was living, there was an indoor soccer field, kind of facility. And so I didn't know anybody there, but I said, you know what, I'm just gonna make it happen. So I walk in there one day, I go and I talk to the manager there and I said, geez, I'm looking to run a boot camp. I think it'd be very successful here. What do you guys think? And they said, geez, that's crazy timing because we're actually looking for someone to run a boot camp here. They're like, have you ever done one before? And I said, oh, absolutely, yeah, I've done many of them, right? No, I'd never done one in my life, but I knew how to figure it out and how to do it, right? You fake it till you make it. So I started that boot camp. At first, I remember opening the doors. I remember I'm gonna have all these classes. I'm gonna have like 20 classes a day. It's gonna be unbelievable. I bought this equipment. I did this. I did that. And then I remember opening the first day and nobody showed up. And the second day, nobody showed up. Third day, it was for a while there that I didn't have many clients. I was just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, and I was on the verge of quitting. I wanted to just be like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I shouldn't be a business owner. That sort of thing, right? It wasn't until I finally was able to convince the facility to send out an email that I wrote to get them to get people into my boot camp. And when I sent that email out, I remember it was like night and day. I had 20 people come in, then it turned into 30, then it turned to 50. It was growing and growing, which was awesome. And then basically what happened after that was it started to get so successful that there was another business in the facility that was doing training, adult training for people, fitness training. And that was a franchise, and they said, geez, you know what, you're kind of in our space here. We got the agreement. So the facility told me I had 2 weeks to find my own space, or I had to join them and give them the clients and all that stuff. So of course, which one do you think I did? I said, okay, 2 weeks, find my own space. Looked around everywhere in town, and I found, believe it or not, where we are in this location, back in the day, the second floor of an office building, and like 700 square feet. I mean, it was just not reinforced floors, not made for fitness at all. But we set it up and we did it. And basically what happened was everyone came over, everyone moved over. I don't think I even had the flooring down before we started working out. And we just made it happen. And then from there, we just kept growing and growing. We did a couple of promotions. I started to get into marketing a little bit more, figure things out. At that time, CrossFit started to be like kind of a thing. There wasn't any CrossFits around. I think there was maybe one in the area before we started. I decided, you know what, like I got my L1, I'm like, this is for me, like it kicked my ass. And I said, you know what, we gotta do this. So I said to my members, I said, listen guys, like starting in like a couple months from now, we're gonna be transitioning to CrossFit. So we're going from boot camp to CrossFit. I know it's gonna seem a little scary at first, but I really believe in this. I think this is the best way to go. And this is what we're gonna do, right? So we transitioned. I was scared because it was a huge change. Like I didn't think that, I honestly thought like nobody was gonna stick around, like because boot camp is way different than CrossFit, right? So we moved into another space in the same complex, which is 1,000 square feet. We went from 700 to 1,000, big jump. And I remember we moved in there, we had all the barbells, everything, which no one had ever used before. And the crazy thing was, I think I lost maybe two members out of the whole experience. So it just goes to show, like if you believe in something, like people will follow you as long as, it's all about relationships and trust in the gym. And so we did that. And so we moved in there and we grew that to the point where we're at like 150 members and 1,000 square feet. And it was just packed. And we just, I was like, oh man, like what are we gonna do? Like we've got to expand, And so I remember I looked at a space in this complex, our current space now, which is 10,000 square feet. And I remember going in there and, the landlord was like, yep, it's yours if you want it. And I was like, oh man, I don't. So I said yes. And then a couple days later, he said, oh geez, like, actually it's not available for another year. And I said, geez, like, okay, like what are we gonna do? But we figured it out. We changed up, we modified every single workout every single day. We did partner workouts, teams of 3, just to make it work in that 1,000 square foot space. And then finally it opened up, and then we opened up into our 10,000 square foot space to where we are now. And it's been awesome. So it's a crazy journey to think about when I look back to where I first started. But man, I'm really glad I didn't quit because I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't be able to help as many people we do on a daily basis.